Good afternoon. Welcome back to From Code to Cure, where we explore how AI is reshaping the future of the drug development. So today our topic is why drug discovery still takes 12 years and how can AI change that? My name is Roger Wang, and joining me again today is Dr. Pan, the founder and CEO of Ainnocence. Dr. Pan, great to have you back.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So, so before we dive in, a really simple, quick question. 12 years, why does drug discovery still take this long in the 21st century? And what are we really up against? What are our enemies?
Yeah, good question. There are conventionally drug discovery would have to take at least four major stages. First is preclinical drug discovery stage, and there's phase one for safety evaluation, and phase two for efficacy evaluation, and then phase three for large randomized trial of the overall population efficacy for the particular disease. So those are heavily regulated steps that has to be, rigorously, investigated by group of scientists and clinicians to make sure every single drug that has been proved has to be both effective and also safe to use.
Okay, so among those four big parts, what does the most time get burned, or where does the most time get burned? In the preclinical trials, clinical trials, or the regulatory reviews?
Yeah, conventionally, it takes about 3 to 6 years for a drug to when we start a project and do in vitro and in vivo studies and all the other preclinical evaluations, and then it normally took 6 to 7 years of the entire phase one to three clinical trial. It also depends on the disease. Different disease would have different length of trials. And then after that, there will be a couple of years of regulatory review of all the data and also other market related regulatory issues, and eventually the drug is to get the permit to be sold in the market. And also during the process, the every time we start to we will have to optimize the from of course the major ingredients of the medicine has to be invented, and also the manufacturing process has to be also constantly optimized during the research process. So there's a lot of work and take a really long time.
Got it. So I guess apart from the regulatory reviews in the preclinical or clinical trials, there must be a place where AI can help, right? So in order for AI to help, we need to identify any repetitive or manual work that we have been doing by human. So is there any place where AI can really help in this scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we're here, work on Innocence. So first of all, the preclinical stage, there's a lot of work that AI can expedite. Normally, in the preclinical stage, it involves scientific intelligence and also screening of drug candidates. So for the scientific intelligence in the past, it takes like a group of scientists to review on thousands of literatures and patents, then to find out the clues of identify potential drug targets and potential method for treatment. And currently with the AI and empowered by large language model, it can read like thousands and patent literature within just a few minutes instead of few months with large crew of scientists. Probably just a few scientists can finish the task. So that's just a great time saver and also intelligent condensed into just a small group of people and be more efficient. And the second is drug screening. In the past, no matter for small molecule drug or biologics, you have to screen millions to even billions of actual build chemical libraries and those timeline and normally start from 6 months to even 2 years. And also the
Wow.
spending is very, very large as well, because each individual test, each compound or like antibody being synthesized has a cost. And think about millions of them being synthesized and also being tested. That just even with robotic hand, it still be very, very costly and long. And but with AI, what we can do is we can screen millions of candidates within just an hour on the computer, and we only need to test like dozens of them in real lab, and that's just a big saving on the time and also the all the chemical costs. So that's absolutely the part that can save a lot of time and resources in preclinical stage. And also in terms of clinical stage, let's say it's really hard to really shorten the period because you have to still take the same amount of patients and also have to monitor the same amount of time. However, what we can do is we can predict the outcome of each drug candidate with the data we collected in the previous clinical trial and also other resources so that we can make sure the drug candidate has a higher success rate. So normally in the past, the success rate for small molecule discovery is about 6%, and for antibodies about 12%. That's just a really small like probability to be successful.
Yeah.
With AI, we'll be able to actually increase this probability significant. For example, for phase one study in the past, it's about 20% success rate, but now it's about 80% success rate. So as you can see, even just to on the safety, this one parameter, AI and other computational simulation could dramatically help to save, wasted trials.
Got it. I guess like this is a situation where we know what to do in the clinical trial, but I guess biology is a really complex and a mystery science. Is there any time that we just don't know what to do? And if that is the case, can AI actually help over there as well? Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, you're pretty correct. The biggest hurdle, bottleneck, and delay is in disease biology itself. A lot of times we simply just don't know, like what is the pathology between like what's the pathology behind the disease, such as for example, certain disease like ALS and neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Still, there's so many theories about what caused it, and even there's some putative theories we still don't know, how to reverse the pathological process, using what target or what mechanism to do to treat the disease, and which actually hindered the drug discovery dramatically. So right now there is about over 15,000 diseases without cure, and most of them is because we don't just simply don't know the cause. So I think in this problem, AI is actually does better than human, not just to do expedite repetitive task. They can dig into like oceans of genetic data and oceans of clinical records and find clues and hypotheses that traditional ways that just scientists does simple analysis on very isolated data or very limited data that could discover. So I think here is probably the really big breakthrough in biology in the next 10 or 20 years would probably 80% would contributed by AI systems.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with AI, we can actually try a lot of different methods with a really low cost. So right now, let's say for the current pharmaceutical companies which are not using AI, are they do they have any other method of treating this, finding the solution, or they are just like, no, we are not going to find a cure for this at all? Is that what they are doing right now?
Yeah, the industry in the past, at least, a few decades, is being very traditional, which means each company they may take some clue, some hypothesis from, academia research or clinical dis finding from, a few individual cases, and then they started to explore that hypothesis. But it's still like it's like a gamble. It's not like a systematic analyze of all the information you can have. But now I think it started to shifting, not just like every individual biotech is start to adapt AI technology to analyze your approach more systematically with a broader scientific view. Also, there's completely different type of biotech or pharma they started to use a AI-driven methodology instead of a human hypothesis-driven methodology, which they can test the hypothesis in parallel. They can even test 1,000 hypotheses in, just one shot. So that's just that is just dramatically change how things has been done in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, this was not possible when we were trying to do this by hand, right? Manually, testing thousands of hypotheses at once.
Mhm.
Okay, so I guess like AI can really help the industry, and I do want to dive deeper into this. So, what part of the 12 years timeline that we just talked about can AI actually compress? And by how much? By 6 years? By 8 years? Can you like break this down a little bit more for me?
Yeah, definitely. I think the most the AI can compress is the preclinical stage. It normally takes 3 to 6 years in the past, but now we can actually make it 3 to 6 months. And recently, FDA also phasing out the animal study for antibody drug, which is literally could be 2 or 3 years of study in the past. So in that case, anything will have been tested effective in vitro, which normally takes just a couple of months after the AI design, it could directly filing for clinical study, which is a big jump. And then for the clinical trial 1 to 3, sometimes the for very urgent disease and also very like rare disease, they're fast track that you can shorten it directly go to like phase 2B, which probably 50% of time can be saved. But like I said, we're still trying to find out a better way to shorten the clinical stage. But currently, I don't see a really good time because it still needs, time to after the patient take the drug, you have to monitor certain time
Yeah.
until the symptoms completely, remedied. It just has to take time. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess like with the help of AI, we can shorten maybe 12 years to like 8 years or 6 to 8 years.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So apart from just making this whole process faster, can AI also reduce the failures of the clinical trials? Because we know like in drug discoveries, time is a matter of fact and cost is also another matter of fact. Can AI help over there?
Yeah, definitely. So, just according to our own experience in my past about 15 years of drug discovery participation, in the on average, if we do a high throughput screening on a random chemical space or random library, the hit rate screening is 1 over 10,000 molecules being screened. So every 10,000 experiment, you get one positive answer for the screening part. That's why you need to screen at least like 10,000, I'm sorry, 100,000 or even more to narrow down those ideal candidate. But the first generation of AI, like computer-aided drug discovery, the average industry norm is 1 out of 100, which is already 100 times better than just blinding experiment. But still, it's has room to improve. And then the past 5 years, like deep learning AI technology kicks in just based on the case that Ainnocence has been done, we were able to increase the hit rate from 1% to about 10 to 50%. which is another tenfold of increase than the conventional computational methods. So definitely the failure rate in the preclinical stage is dramatically reduced. And but for the clinical trial, it still takes some time. Like most of the AI design molecule hasn't goes through all the trial yet because they're very recent, very new project. They still take 10 years to validate it. But as long, like I said, at least for clinical trial one, we already have solid statistics. It's the failure rates from 80% to 20%. So that's also a dramatic improvement.
Makes sense. So I guess Ainnocence platform makes the biggest dent in this whole process. Like it's a preclinical trial part. Can you introduce Ainnocence platform a little bit more, like how Ainnocence is utilizing AI to help the whole process?
Yeah, definitely. So since technology, as you're also part of it, we leverage deep learning and all the pharmacology data that we have been accumulated from over 100 database and in the past 40 years, so that we have built there are two distinct features of Ainnocence platform. One is we have leveraged a dimensional reduction algorithm, be able to reduce all the 3D problem into 1D or 2D to dramatically reduce the cost of the computing. It's about 10,000 times, which enlarge the capability of the same computational resource can compute, so that we'll be able to screening like billions of candidates within just a few hours in just a couple of GPUs, instead of in the past it takes about a month and very expensive on the hardware cost. But we didn't sacrifice the accuracy. The accuracy was actually 10 to 15% more accurate because we have sufficient clean curated data to support that deep learning engine. So that's the first breakthrough that we'll be able to achieve. The second one is we use multi-objective optimization, because most of the clinical trial failure is not because the drug is not being effective. It has some kind of unavoidable side effect or drawbacks, which normally account for over 20 different pharmacology parameters that one molecule has to satisfy. And it's just really hard for human experts to optimize like 20 parameters at a time by just, by their experience. And even with iterated screening processes, still it's kind of really hard to balance out all 20 parameters. But we'll be able to build over 20 different models to optimize one molecule at a time. We'll be able to shorten that process as well. So I guess this is the best we can do, leverage the current human pharmacology data that exists, but we think the effect is already emerging. And most of our case that we have been working on has been successful. We actually have very consistent performance of over 50 projects. On average, about 80 to 90% of them are being successfully delivered with all those parameters being optimized.
Yeah, this is the best we can do so far, but we keep improving. Let's put it in that way.
Exactly.
So okay, so a couple more questions that I have. So we keep talking about how AI can help in the drug discovery process. But just to be frank, is there any part of the process that AI cannot help? Like no matter how good the AI is, it is still hard.
Um, Yeah, that's a very good question. I think there's probably two things that AI is really hard to tackle, but it also needs AI to do it. Right now is I think the general modern medicine feel like underlying philosophy. Because right now I think our drug discovery, especially modern Western medicine, is mostly target-based drug discovery, which we have to first identify a single target and then start to discover the solution. But the theory might not be correct. It could be a completely different reason why we are sick. It could be a holistic theory framework that action as a multi-target or a system view, and that unless we change the theory, the AI can't really do much. But I think if
Right.
adapt that framework as we call it the whole body health or other type of philosophy that AI could probably also leverage more data to help with that. And another is like we can't change the regulatory too much about how a drug being evaluated and like we can't abandon like the randomized large scale trials to evaluate efficacy and safety of a medicine. This is still has to be heavily regulated field. We can't just allow AI to do everything and without heavily guarded on the standard. So I think that's something that is humans' job to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. This is good to know.
Mhm.
And before we wrap up our webinar, any final thought for anyone in the audience who's wondering how to actually start applying AI to their drug discovery pipeline?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to tell like scientists and physicians in the field that give AI a chance to help your work and it's better and like we actually when I first started using the methodology, I couldn't even believe myself. There's a lot of like surprising myself moment because I was also traditionally trained as a pharmacology and chemist, has all the traditional knowledge, but at certain point of my career, like I feel like AI does actually better than myself. So I let it do its job. So I think it's open-minded is very important at this point. As long as our final goal is the same to find a better medicine, as long as the standard doesn't change, we just do it more efficient. So I like the whole field, especially traditional biotech would have more open mind and just give AI a chance to help them does their science better.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. And thank you, Dr. Pan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And stay tuned for the next episode in our Innocence webinar series. Until then, keep asking good questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks for your attendance.